What time is it?
Tea time!
Oh, yeah.
And welcome back to Tea Time, episode 20. Let's get started. And we're going to talk some college football. There's absolutely chaos amok in the final week of the regular season. Bama loses, Miami loses, which leaves only two teams left undefeated. And that is Wisconsin, who's been sitting on the outside of the top four all season long, and Central Florida, Scott Frost, the former Duck OC. And I guess I have to make the question does UCF have a shot at getting into the college football playoff? And I say yes, albeit a very, very slim, certain things need to happen type of shot. But they beat ranked South Florida. They now get to play ranked Memphis for the second time, already beating them the first time. And those things help. It's going to come down to, is a one-loss non-conference champion more worthy than a no-loss UCF? And I beg the question that I think there is that possibility, because do we think UCF can beat Bama? Probably not. But part of the reason why the college football playoff was even made was to give teams like UCF and Boise State and Utah back in the day, and TCU back in the day, give these teams, Houston last year, a real shot at possibly winning a national title, because when there was only two teams, there was no shot in hell. And I think UCF has a shot, but what needs to happen for them, I think, is Wisconsin has to go undefeated. Wisconsin has to win the Big Ten over Ohio State, because that eliminates a possible two-loss Ohio State from knocking him out. And if Auburn wins as a two-loss team, I think that would only help Alabama. So in the end, I mean, no matter what, either Clemson or Miami, one of those two teams are in. And even saying this out loud right now makes it very difficult, but no matter what, whoever wins between Clemson and Miami, they are in. If Wisconsin wins, they are in. Oklahoma wins, they are in. I think the Pac-12 is out no matter what. I don't think they have a real shot unless we really discuss two lost teams getting in there. But with Auburn, if say they were to win with two losses, that makes it a very intriguing offer for Alabama to make it in. But at the same time, all this makes it super difficult, because we could have Ohio State win and Auburn win, which leaves two two-loss champions, one one-loss champion, and another one-loss champion. Which, now saying more and more out loud, maybe UCF really doesn't have a shot. Because if Wisconsin does win and Georgia does win, then it's just going to be Oklahoma, Georgia, Wisconsin, and the winner of Miami, Clemson. So maybe they do need that last bit of chaos. They need Stanford to win, eliminate USC from all contention. They maybe need, I think it's TCU who will be facing Oklahoma. If TCU wins the rematch, well, that pretty much eliminates the Big 12. If Auburn beats Georgia, that leaves two two-loss teams and a one-loss team out of the SEC. So who knows? Maybe ultimate chaos is what's needed. All the higher-ranked, less-lost teams need to lose. Maybe there needs to be no one-loss teams. Well, or one-loss team that has a chance, because Wisconsin has no chance without beating Ohio State. Their schedule's just not strong enough. And if I had to break down my college football four, I could give you the four I think it's going to be, and I could give you the four that is currently. If I had to go currently, it's Wisconsin, it's Clemson, it's Oklahoma, and it's Auburn. As much as I don't want to say that. And in the end, I think that's who's actually going to end up being in it. minus Wisconsin. I think Ohio State beats them and Ohio State gets in. Even though I want to see UCF so badly. And as far as Heisman goes, it's Baker Mayfield's. It's nobody else's. I mean, unfortunately, some of the best players in the country play on teams that aren't going to a major bowl. And then you have certain major players like Saquon Barkley that just fell off the face of the earth. So it's pretty much Baker Mayfield's to lose, and I don't think he's going to lose it. I think it's just too big of a lead at this point because I can't name anybody on any of the other top teams that would replace him right now. So it's going to be Baker Mayfield. That's my pick. And everyone who had an issue with the crotch grabbing, I didn't. I mean, yeah, be better than that, but at the same time, you have guys who refuse to shake your hand and then cheap shot you. I would do the same thing. Getting his C pulled, all that stuff. But I will say it was really dumb of the other captains to bring his jersey out. He's not dead. He's just suspended from being a captain for one game. I mean, that just makes it worse. Don't act like he's dead and bring the jersey to the captain circle. Forget that. That's really stupid. Just as stupid as him grabbing his crotch, knowing better. But in the end, I'm not a big fan of Oklahoma anyways, but Baker Mayfield will be your Heisman whether he was the captain that last game or not. Luckily for him, he has the Big 12 championship game, so technically his last game wasn't last game, but he'll be your Heisman winner. And there's so many hires and fires going on in college football. Mike Riley is out. Todd Graham from ASU is out. Jim Mora was out. Kevin Sumlin is out. We knew Jim McElwain was gone. We knew Butch Jones was gone. Leaving up all these openings. And Florida went and signed Dan Mullins away from Mississippi State. And I have to say, I absolutely hate this hire by Florida. I think it was dumb and they're going to regret it really quickly. I think they're going to regret it more than the Jim McElwain hire. Yeah, Dan Mullins has done a lot and done well with Mississippi State. And he's dumb to leave that team because they're now really seniorized coming into next year, and now somebody else is going to come in and take credit for what he built. But how do you not go after Scott Frost? I mean, you had legitimate interest in Chip Kelly, which I said in the last podcast, he's not going to Florida. He has no ties there. But Scott Frost does. Last 2 years, he's been recruiting in Florida out at UCF. So he knows the terrain. He has the recruiting base. He took a team that hadn't won a single game and then turned them into a 10-win team and now an undefeated team, possibly perfect for the season if it continues this year. How do you not go after him? You know Nebraska's going to go hard after him. You know Texas A&M's going to go after him now. You know Tennessee's going to go after him now. Speaking of Tennessee, going to hire Greg Schiano protests and everyone up in arms about Greg Schiano, so they pull the contract and don't hire him. Way not to make that a circus. But Florida going after Dan Mullins, I don't understand how you do that. You wanted the fast paced, you wanted the high tempo, the lightning strike offense in Chip Kelly. You can have that in Scott Frost, but get the recruiting, get the age. He has a hell of a defensive coordinator, knows the terrain. Like, you had a prime opportunity just to wait. Because guess what? You're still Florida. People are still going to want that job. Heck, you don't go get Scott Frost, you can go after Kevin Sumlin. You wanted offense. Florida's better than Texas A&M, or at least situational-wise. But instead you go after Dan Mullins, who I thought should have been the new Tennessee coach or staying at Mississippi State. That's beyond the point. Now Tennessee's probably going to go after Kevin Sumlin since the Greg Schiano possible hire really did that badly. And then there's the rumors that Jimbo Fisher is going to go back to A&M and Gus Malzahn's going to go to Arkansas now that Brett Bielema is fired, which I don't understand why he would leave a national title contending Auburn for Arkansas. I don't understand why Jimbo Fisher would leave Florida State in the great condition it's in that he created to go to Texas A&M and that circus. But, you know, you never know. Coaches leave for certain reasons. And meanwhile, all that's going on. Who called Chip Kelly going to UCLA? This guy. Why did I say he'd go to UCLA? He knows California. He knows the Pacific Northwest. He knows the Pac-12. He knows he can win in the Pac-12. His offense is better suited in the Pac-12 over the SEC. And I think it was a home run hit. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I think Chip Kelly's going to go out and win the league very first year. I think he has the opportunity, and the South is for the taking, to possibly actually make a huge hit and make it work. I think he can do well. I think he can do great. I think he can win there. Because I don't think Clay Helton is as good as coach as people think. But then again, I also don't think Sam Darnold is as good as people think. But, I still think it was a great hire. And, you heard me call it on here. I said it was going to be him. And the interesting one to look for the Pac-12 and their hire is ASU, who they actually going to go after, because they fired Todd Graham after beating Arizona, already being bowl eligible, so they're not going to have no coach for bowl eligibility, which would be kind of funny. But before we get into some Oregon stuff, I need to tell you about Auto Service Express. Yes, you've heard me talk about them a few times now. Tom and his crew will take care of your car and take care of it right. They will do so well, your car's not coming back with the same problem. They get it done right. They get it done right the first time, and you'll leave satisfied. And that's my guarantee. Auto Service Express for all your car needs. And now let's get on to some Oregon. That Civil War was an absolute massacre. I told you guys a couple podcasts ago to just pull an Aaron Rodgers and relax. This wasn't a season that was going to be national title season. Justin Herbert's hurt, which gives Willie Taggart a pass. But remember, Willie Taggart is not the same type of coach we've had the last couple years in Mark Helfrich and in Chip Kelly. He's not going to be going up against Chip Kelly. But he has a great recruiting class coming in. He has great momentum going in. We're back in a bowl, which if I was to guess, it's going to be most likely the Cactus Bowl. But because we do have 9 teams bowl eligible in the Pac-12, it mucks it up a little less. But we only have 7 games with affiliates, which means 2 teams are going to go to non-affiliate games. Possibly. I mean, if USC there's no Rose Bowl this year, so USC has to get an at-large bid in a major bowl, and they're pretty much the only shot at doing it because Stanford's not going to get it with 3 losses. And if USC doesn't get one of those big bowls, which they probably will, but if they don't, that mucks it up even more. And the 2 most likely, actually I'll go 3. I think the 3 most likely bowls are the Vegas Bowl, the Cactus Bowl, and the Pinstripe Bowl. Because the Pinstripe Bowl has no allegiance to really anybody, last I saw. It was basically just 2 at-larges they picked at will. And who knows? That's, I believe, in Jersey. It's somewhere on the East Coast. And it might be interesting then to bring Oregon in. But more likely, Cactus Bowl is what's going to have Oregon. We're going to be up against a Big 12 school. And it's looking like it most likely going to be Oklahoma State. So throughout the defenses, it's going to be a shootout. But to go over to the other side of the Civil War in OSU, they completely cleaned house all their coaches but Corey Hall. And allegedly, they've engaged in contract discussions and getting Bo Baldwin as their next head coach. As it's well documented, I think OSU should be going after Mark Helfrich. But Bo Baldwin is not a bad hire. I actually like the idea of Bo Baldwin at Oregon. But there is one glaring problem with Bo Baldwin. He's only been a head coach at the FCS level, and he didn't really turn Cal around that much on offense last year as a coordinator. That could change. Could get a better coordinator. But Bo Baldwin is not going to a place where he's just going to be able to recruit kids out of the backyard that easily. But he does have an offensive background. He does know how to put up points. He does know the terrain of the Pacific Northwest. So he can do a lot of the things I said Mark Helfrich can do, but he's going to do it without the name. Yes, Mark Helfrich is a name. He is an identity. Bo Baldwin doesn't really have one on the FBS level. He's known as the guy that's gone in and put up points on Pac-12 teams, but part of that is the fact they didn't expect him to be able to throw like that. It's not all just they were just amazing teams. because I believe he only won one national title at the FCS level. Despite all those wins and all those yards he would have his teams put up. But if it is Beau Baldwin, I think that's a better hire than Les Miles. I still think Mark Helfrich is the guy they should have went after. But I think it's going to be very interesting. Chip to UCLA, possibly Beau Baldwin to Oregon State, and then whoever ASU hires. I think the two guys ASU is going to try and get are Kevin Sumlin and Mark Helfrich. Because I didn't think Todd Graham was going to get the boot since he was able to make bowl eligibility and even win against Arizona in whatever they call their rival game. So I think they're going to go offense since Todd Graham is not. And Mark Helfrich owned ASU when he was at Oregon as coordinator and head coach. And Kevin Sumlin, pretty good offensive mind. Couldn't get it done at A&M, but that's a lot of pressure, and it's the SEC. But I think those are the two guys to watch out for. This Pac-12 could become really, really offensive-oriented really quickly, which will make things very interesting in the league. But to kind of finish off the show, we're going to talk a little bit of Oregon's men basketball. How they did the PK 80 was not the best showing for them. They lost their first game to UConn. They won their second game against DePaul, and then they lost to Oklahoma. Now, you have to remember some things with this Oregon basketball team. There's a lot of new faces. Only 3 guys returning that played any minutes on this team. Only 1 played significant minutes. Peyton Pritchard, Roman Sorkin, and Keith Smith. Michael Cage did not play any minutes. That's why he doesn't get involved in that conversation. But there's a lot of new faces, a lot of young faces. This team needs to meld. It needs to mesh. It needs to learn. They're getting better. It was a tough showing, but they had heart, and they kept at it. And that's what you want to see from your team. You want to see them keep fighting hard and keep at it. They didn't give up. Yes, there was a lot of frustrations, but that's to be expected. I mean, we're playing almost a 10-man rotation, and only 3 of the guys have put on an Oregon uniform before this year and stepped on the court. But Dana Altman, this is his specialty, bringing in a new group of guys who have never played together and getting more out of them than anybody else. People forget his first year here, had a couple walk-ons playing, a couple transfers, getting the grad transfers, getting the regular transfers. That's always what Altman does. He gets those guys, and he mixes them with the young guys he gets. And this was the 12th overall recruiting class last year, pretty damn good one. And they're all playing, and they're all playing pretty well. Kenny Wooten can make those blocks, and man, can that kid fly. Troy Brown Jr., he's the real deal. May end up being the first one-and-doner in Oregon history. Victor Bailey Jr. starting to come on, found his shot, looking good. Abu Kijab is still learning a lot. But that's to be expected because he's a freshman, and all freshmen, they got to learn how to play. It's no longer high school ball. It's now big boy ball, or semi-big boy ball. I guess the NBA is the big boy ball. But just like I said with football, basketball, relax, give it time, let it sit, let them merge, let them get together. Altman will have this team as a NCAA tournament team, and they're going to do some damage, especially if they really start to learn to play together. Especially because Paul White can play, Mikhail McIntosh can play, Elijah Brown can score. Peyton Pritchard's really starting to come into the guy we thought he could be. It's just a matter of time, and just wait. After this year, next year, we have the number 1 basketball recruiting class. Those kids are coming in. Lewis King, Bull, Miles Norris, Will Richardson. And there's a possibility Troy Brown Jr. doesn't leave. So what do you think that's going to do? There's some great years coming for Oregon basketball, and Dana Altman's at the helm. So buckle up. Get ready. Till that time.
What time is it? Tea time!